What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. In today's video we are checking out another robot vacuum from Airrobo called the T9. So this is a robot vacuum that can vacuum and can also mop. So in the box you do get a mopping module for it. So whenever you need the vacuum to vacuum, it will vacuum, but whenever you need it to mop, it will also mop. Now installing that mopping module is super simple. So on the back of the vacuum here we have the dustbin. You first remove the dustbin. It's that simple to remove it. And then you install the mopping module and then you have the vacuum mop. That's simple. Now you have to keep in mind that this can either vacuum or mop. It cannot do both at the same time. So whenever you need it to mop, it will mop, and whenever you need it to vacuum, it will vacuum, but it cannot do both at the same time. The T9 also has a Lidar navigation system. The navigation system is sitting right here at the top of the vacuum, and whenever you're buying one of these robot vacuums, you always want to buy one that has a Lidar navigation system. Having a system like this means that the vacuum will map out your entire house. It knows exactly where it's been. It's not gonna get lost. It's not gonna go over the same area twice unless you want it to go over the same area twice. So it's always best to get a vacuum that has a Lidar navigation system like the one that we have on this one, on the T9. Alright, so for a super quick unboxing, the vacuum comes in a pretty standard box for one of these vacuums. The box is pretty big. Inside the box, of course, you're gonna find the vacuum itself and also the charging dock and the power adapter for that charging dock. So whenever the vacuum is not vacuuming or mopping, of course, it's sitting on the charging dock there. If your house is big enough and the vacuum cannot finish a cleaning cycle on one charge, it will also go back to its charging dock, recharge, and then continue and finish the cleaning cycle. But whenever the vacuum is not being used, it's sitting on that charging dock and it can go there by itself, of course. In the box there is also a user manual and a quick startup guide, and that startup guide is definitely useful so you can set up the vacuum, because the vacuum does connect to your Wi-Fi network and you have to use an app to control it, but we'll talk about that a bit later. In the box there is also that mopping module that I mentioned earlier. You basically fill that on with water and you can control how wet the mop will be. So from the app you do have an option there to control how wet the mop is, because it depends what surface the vacuum is mopping. Because if you're mopping hardwood floors, maybe you don't want that mop to be that wet. And aside from that, we are gonna find a replacement pad for that mopping module. We have two replacement brushes. So the side brushes, those are super simple to install. You basically pull the old ones off and you'd install the new ones. And you also get a replacement filter in the box. The vacuum itself looks like most robot vacuums out there. We have the same round shape that we've been seeing for a lot of vacuums lately. At the top here we have the navigation system. We have a couple of buttons. With one button you basically start a cleaning cycle if you don't want to use the app, and with the other button you can send the vacuum back to its charging dock. On the front here we have a bumper and some sensors, and the bumper also has this rubber strip around it. So if the vacuum doesn't see something in its way, it will basically bump into that, to the bumper, but since we have that rubber strip, it will not damage any furniture. So very important. Some vacuums that I've seen in the past don't have that and they do get quite scratched up. Well, that's not the case with this one. It still looks like new after I've been using it for almost 2 weeks. Moving to the bottom of the vacuum, well, here we have some sensors, so the vacuum is not gonna fall down the stairs if you do have stairs in your house. We do have these two brushes on the sides, so the two brushes basically push all the dirt towards the main brush here and the suction hole. So underneath this brush here we have the suction hole. I did notice that this main brush collects a lot of hair over time, depending on your living situation, of course, but it's super simple to remove that brush and clean that hair. So you do have to clean that hair every so often. There is some hair that gets caught on the little brushes as well every so often. So you will have to clean those sensors and those brushes from hair, well, depending on your living situation once again. As I mentioned earlier, the dustbin is located on the back of the vacuum. With most of these robot vacuums that I've seen, you access the dustbin from the top. Well, that's not the case with this one. The dustbin is located on the back and it's super simple to remove. And the dustbin also has the filter. You're gonna have to replace that filter every so often, but keep in mind there is a replacement filter that comes in the box. So whenever you need the vacuum to mop, you just easily remove the dustbin and you install the mopping module, and then the vacuum goes mopping. Like most robot vacuums these days, this one connects to your home's Wi-Fi network and you control it from an app on your smartphone. The app is called the Tuya Smart and you can install this on iOS or Android, so it works with any phone or tablet that you have. Once you go through the pairing process, make sure that you check out that user manual. It's much easier if you check out the user manual to pair this to your home's Wi-Fi network and of course with your phone. Once it's connected, you can basically control everything about the vacuum from the app. From the app, of course, you can see the map that the vacuum has made. It has to go around your house for the first time and then it generates a map. You can edit those rooms in the map. There you can select walls, you can select do not go zones, you can select schedules. So you can have the vacuum whenever you're not at home. You can just set a schedule and it goes by itself and then it goes back. So you don't necessarily have to start the cleaning cycle manually every single time. You can also select different suction powers, different suction levels. I'm gonna say we have 4 suction levels. The quiet mode, of course, the vacuum doesn't have as much suction, but at least it's much quieter. So if you're at home and the vacuum vacuums when you're at home, maybe you wanna have it set to the quiet mode, but it depends on the situation. Basically, if you're not at home, have it vacuum at the maximum suction power. On one charge, you can probably get about 3 hours of vacuuming time. For my house, the vacuum is done a cleaning cycle in about 45 minutes and it has about 75% battery when it's done a cleaning cycle. So that means that it will get about 3 hours of vacuuming time. So if you have a massive house and the vacuum cannot finish a cleaning cycle, of course it will go back to its charging dock, it will recharge and then will complete the cleaning cycle. So even if you have a massive house, this will still do a cleaning cycle, but it will charge so it can complete that cleaning cycle. Vacuuming wise, this works just as good as any other robot vacuum out there, even though this one is a bit cheaper. So it has plenty of suction power, so it only has to go over one area once and most likely it will pick up everything from that area. Now, if it does miss something on the floor, you can also send it to one place on the map. So let's imagine for a second that you spilled something on the kitchen floor, just because I did spill something on the kitchen floor. So you can select a place on the map, you just pin it in the app there, and then the vacuum will go and clean that area. And whenever you send it to clean only one area, it will go around it twice. So it will very likely pick up everything that's left on the floor, mostly if you have it at the maximum suction power. Unfortunately, I don't have any carpets at home, so I haven't had the chance to try this over carpets, but most vacuums that have a brush at the bottom do seem to do quite well over carpets. The ones that don't have a brush at the bottom don't seem to do good over carpets, so this one shouldn't have any issues. Now, whenever you have this vacuuming, I highly recommend that you pick up any cables from the floor, any small toys, anything like that, anything that the vacuum could get stuck on. First of all, if you have cables, the cable will get caught in this brush at the bottom, so there is a good chance that the cable will get damaged. Not to mention the cleaning cycle will stop if the vacuum gets stuck. So always clean the floor a bit before this goes on a cleaning cycle. As for mopping, well, it comes down to what you're expecting from this, because with a system like this, you basically have a wet cloth that's being dragged over your floor. Of course, it's better to have a system like this than not have any type of mopping. If there is just dust and stuff like that, this will remove dust and stuff like that. And once the vacuum is done a mopping cycle, you can definitely see some dirt on that mopping pad. You're gonna have to wash those pads after each mopping cycle. And you should also remove that water tank whenever the vacuum is done mopping. So for a system like this, it does as good as possible. But if you want something more specialized for mopping, you should look at other systems. But unfortunately, those are 3-4 times more expensive than a vacuum like this. So there you have it. If you're looking for an affordable robot vacuum that can also mop and has a Lidar navigation system, because as I mentioned earlier, having a Lidar navigation system for a robot vacuum is quite important, definitely check out the Airrobo T9. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.